News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, I guess behind the glass.
Absolutely. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out all the action over there, and I've already posted the must-have item of the week, Allan. So for those of you who love that kind of thing, I guess, if you can't wait and you got to hear about it now, check it out. Also, I do want to remind people that coming up later, Allan, we've got our confession hotline is going well. This one is sort of, I don't know, this one is epic. We're probably going to have to give a lot of legal disclaimers on this one. I don't think we can get sued for reading this, but
don't try this at home.
You talk about a safety hazard that we're gonna unpack. Hey, later in the show, we got our buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration coming in, Allan, awesome. And this is going to be an interesting discussion. Just-in-time manufacturing. I guess that is a business practice, or that's something, and it's kind of affecting the supply chain. It's definitely affecting his supply chain when it comes to.
You are so going to trigger me on that one.
Yeah, I figured we would, and that's always entertaining being able to do that. So, we've got a few other segments, but we're probably not going to tease a whole lot of them, other than to say Max is going to weigh in with one of his deep cuts. We're really enjoying these idioms for idiots. He's got some words that he's done some research on. Yeah. So anyway, it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that.
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
It's always important to keep things square. If you want to stay healthy, you need to exercise and eat 3 square meals a day. Can't argue with that.
Okay.
If you want to hit a straight golf shot, you need to keep your feet squared evenly with the ball. Max, the producer's fondness for symmetry inspired him to decorate his entire home using only square shapes, including for his toilet. I don't want to clean that one out.
No comment there.
Yeah.
Just a lot of pain and regret.
You got to suffer for your art. And, of course, Allan Gilbreth felt that he had gotten a square deal when he traded his 1976 AMC Pacer, retrofitted with 48-inch monster truck tires, roof-mounted grappling hook, and floor-to-ceiling purple shag carpeting in exchange for a Hollywood-accurate Dr. Octopus costume with fully functioning robotic arms, which Allan thought would be a great help to him in the kitchen. Unfortunately, however, his English bulldog, ironically named Otto, who was much smarter than he looked, figured out a way to slip the robotic arms into position around his midsection and activate the controls, leading to a very fun afternoon where Otto climbed every tree and terrorized every cat in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
After which he came home and put his efforts into reconfiguring the house to lay things out more in keeping with his tastes, most notably by hurling every piece of furniture that didn't have a cushion into the street, removing the doors to the food pantry and refrigerator for easier access, and ripping out all of the home's southern-facing exterior walls to let more sunlight in during his nap time. You trained that guy too well.
Well, it's...
But you overtrained the Venus flytrap, now you overtrain Otto.
Well, but he has a great side business now.
Okay.
He is easily available to help torment your neighborhood squirrels.
There we go. Otto's rocking over there. Yes, keeping things square is important. I forgot what we were even talking about, Allan. And there is perhaps no more important place to do this than on a construction site. From the smallest home to the tallest skyscrapers, modern construction relies on level platforms and 90-degree corners. So today we celebrate one of the most fundamental tools for keeping us on the square and narrow. My friends, we give you the framing square. I would dare say, Allan, pretty much any carpenter, a lot of homeowners, most people have a framing square, I think. Or if you work with tools, it's sort of an essential.
of some variety or another. Besides just the traditional framing square, there's also your little mini squares and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
and if you don't know what a framing square is, it's basically, it comes in all shapes, or I mean, it comes in all sizes,
Right.
and it's basically looks like the letter L, and usually one side is a little bit longer than the other, and it'll have inches marked off. It might even have millimeters marked off. But Allan, what's interesting about the framing square is it's one of these where you really can't say who invented it, because this thing does go back thousands of years.
it and the arch of the framing square and the early ways of measuring an arch.
What do you mean by that? I'm curious. I didn't expect the arch to come into this.
Well, if you look at a lot of old Roman architecture, you have examples of both, because you've got obviously a nice 90-degree squared off wall
Right.
that goes up, and then to save weight in the walls, they would put in arched windows.
That's what it was for. Because I thought arches also are really
They're
strong,
really stable,
and
they're really
right.
strong, but it's a big empty space where you don't have all that stone and all that weight. So a lot of your decorative stuff and a lot of these tools were developed at that time to get you into the right place, because if you don't have a good square corner, you don't have a good support.
Well, exactly. You don't want that thing off even a little bit.
You don't want to be rocking and wobbling down the walkway trying to get over the sand.
There's some tower, not a tower. It's like a skyscraper in San Francisco. I was watching a special documentary on, and I think it's off by it's like 0.0022. It's like barely noticeable, but it's not quite level. And they're talking about the issues that could cause down the road. So in construction, you really do need a level platform.
Well, it's
and a square corner. So,
you get into we really get into heavy mathematics, whether you know you're getting into them or not.
Right.
The big thing is it weight bearing? How is it going to sit there? Are you fighting gravity, or are you working with gravity?
Exactly.
And that is where something like a framing square, it just seems so simple. It's hard to imagine it's doing that much work when you slap it up in a corner and go, yep, that's square, we're good, and you move on.
Right.
Being slightly out of square, especially like a window,
Sure.
you got water coming in.
Yeah, you got drafts, you got
end of the day,
yeah.
water is the enemy. Water is going to be coming in. If you're like a Roman road, making sure that wall is nice and 90 degrees straight up so that you can then put the next device on top of it.
You don't want a 50-foot wall tipping sideways.
Yeah. Horrifyingly, there's entire YouTube channels devoted to architectural fails.
Oh yeah.
And this is where the wrong material got used, or something wasn't level, or something wasn't in there right, and next thing you know, it's heading for the street.
Well, I want to ask you something, Allan, and this is just a little fun exercise, because I was thinking about how old the framing square is, and I was imagining how you would have made one. Like, how do you come up with one, and how do you prove to people that it's okay? Here was my thought. What if let's suppose you get a basin of water or something, right? Okay, and you use that to establish, I guess they didn't have glass back then, so you couldn't have a transparent. But basically, if you take some water and you make you can make it perfectly horizontally level, right? You're just staring at me blankly. That's how you establish that. You establish one angle that way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take a string, and you could have even just taken a rock, and you tie the string to the rock, and you hold it till it settles straight, and you've now created a 90-degree angle, perfectly 90-degree, and then you just trace it and cut out your tool.
I was waiting to see if you were going to come in with the plumbers.
Right, so you use a plumb. So in other words, if you were stranded on a desert island and you had a cup of water and a string and a rock, you could make a framing square.
You could get close enough. Yes.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting to me though is because this thing is so old, I wondered. Okay, there's you brought up a name. Silas Hawes from 1819. He was a blacksmith. It said that he patented the framing square. Well, how do you patent something that you didn't invent? That's what
you find out there's a new patent office and you get in line early.
Okay, so do we call foul on this, or what? What's the? It's like patenting the wheel. How do you just patent something?
He patented his version. which was very, very standard.
Okay.
He went with 24 inches by a 2-inch wide blade because at the time we were developing the 2x4.
I was about to say, so you would scroll.
So he was actually designing a tool specifically and the other side, the tongue was less wide than that. It was the next size board down. It was 1.5 inches, and it was only about 16 inches long.
So he used this as a way to trace this. Okay, and then he put, I'm guessing, measurements on the side.
Exactly. He had it notched and that kind of stuff. So it was his version of it, and it was designed to do what he does. And being a blacksmith, he was the master of all tools.
Well, blacksmiths have to be resourceful, as we've said. I mean, they're the kind of, in the village, everybody took everything to the blacksmith, right?
Every tool we used at this time, because this was what, 1820, 1815?
Yeah, this says 1819, so. Yeah.
So around 1810, 1815, you didn't run down to the big box store and get a pair of pliers.
Right.
You had to go see the blacksmith and tell him what you wanted, how you wanted it, and he literally made to order.
Didn't the blacksmith invent the vice grips or something? I can't remember.
Oh,
they've invented a lot of stuff. You know.
Half of everything you and I touch is a blacksmith invention or of adaptation.
Well, then I guess the question for me would be, not to beat this whole thing into the ground, but if he made his variation, well, then I could come along and make my variation, and I don't have to worry about his pet. Okay, so because that was my only thing. It's like some ingenious person way back thousands of years came up with the first framing square.
Right.
Unfortunately, whoever you are, we can't give you credit because we didn't have Google back then.
It'd have been Googleless, you know. So.
But anyway, so big salute, big shout out to the framing square. Allan, you know who's probably has a framing square next to his bed because he's just always always on duty. He's always using things on his nightstand table. He's probably got one. Our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing. You talk about dedication. You talk about a guy that's cares about his craft and everything. And Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. If you have if you have a roof situation, Allan, if you have a remodeling situation, but especially if you have a situation that might involve any type of work that needs to be taken care of by your homeowner's insurance, because Jay, among other things, with his unique background, is a former insurance agent. And so if you have those issues like you and I had, our buddy Brandon Olmstead, Jay has replaced all of our roofs, and it was a pretty interesting experience, as we've said before. So I
will freely admit, in one of those full disclosure things, the best part of getting my roof was watching my guy Jay and the gentleman from the insurance company talk insurance. Yeah, it was amazing. It was utterly amazing.
And of course, they don't just install a roof, Allan. They don't just nail a bunch of shingles up there. It's a roofing system, and it's interesting how interconnected and how like they put roof vents, which. Man, that's for one thing. I've mentioned this before. My utility bill went down as soon as I got the new roof. Our utility bill just became lower. It's just because it's not storing all that heat up in the attic, and it makes the shingles last longer. There's it's a lifetime transferable warranty, which is really pretty amazing. So you talk about when you go to sell your home.
Yes,
that's a big selling point. So, and Jay's just a great guy to work with. You believe me, get on the phone with Jay, and it's a dynamic discussion.
It is.
You can call Jay directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Allan, I don't think we teased this yet, and I don't think Max was prepared. And but you mentioned something, and I think it does behoove us to discuss this. We're going to call this weird seasonal shifts in gardening. So you're the gardener here. And, okay, I'm not a gardener, but I can look out a window, and I know it seems to me that we basically didn't have much of a winter. We kind of had a really cool spring, tons of rain. All of a sudden, it's like a light switch went off. You get summer. It's just it's not that gradual, whatever.
No.
Weird seasonal shifts, and I guess your plants are going to react to that, right?
It's your plants, your water management, your windows, your sidewalks. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm sure that, I know you've noticed.
Yeah.
Is, you called me one day and said, I'm looking at the back window. It rained yesterday. It's sunshiny today. I am watching my yard grow.
It feels like it. You cut the grass, and you literally are like, how the heck did that thing...
It was a day ago. I
Right.
cut it on Sunday. It's Tuesday, and it looks like I've got rabbits running loose in here.
Yeah. Hey, can I I just want to throw
Dive
this
in.
into the mix, Alan, because we're talking about gardening, and you know the Great Wall of Midtown that I've been working on for months and everything.
Right.
Well, it's not just that. It's okay. Well, Becky, you know the
Right.
homeowner,
Right.
she's a gardener. She planted squash, right?
Right.
And she got those big tubs. They're like a big frame that you basically assemble. It's really lightweight. You put it down, fill it with dirt, and you're good to go. Well, I came back and I didn't know what a squash plant looked like, other than these leaves are like, I mean, they're like the size of a basketball.
They're
huge.
bigger around than your head. Yes.
Okay, Alan, there was nothing there. She put this in. There was a tiny little shrub. I
Right.
come back 2 weeks later because I hadn't been there for
Right.
a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden there's massive growth.
Yes.
And I'm like, how the heck did this happen? I mean, is it the weather, or is that normal, or I don't know. I just want to throw that into
Well,
the
welcome
pile.
to D, all of the above.
Okay.
All right. A, we got a lot of great plants. Of course, you go to your big box store, your garden center these days, and they got one of everything, which is a ton of fun.
Yep.
They even have a lot of new stuff. I was looking, one of the facilities I went through this week had ferns from New Zealand that get 6 to 8 feet tall.
Oh,
I'm like, well, hello,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So here's the quick advice, because suddenly we just jumped literally from a cold, really damp spring.
Right.
A lot of water management issues. You and I have been talking about this for months. Now we're going to swing the other way, because now the water's going to dry up, and now we're going to start looking at the heat and the dry.
Are we sure about that?
Well, I don't know. It might rain today. We
It
might
felt pretty cool out today too for the end of May.
We might be in for a wet summer. We don't know.
Yeah.
So here's the advice. Now that you can get outside and it's comfortable, one, let's look at mosquito control.
Oh gosh.
Just
yeah.
real quick.
They must love this.
Time to look around your yard. Do you have any discarded flower pots and good heavens, an old tire is just begging for misery.
Oh, yeah.
Please, let's go ahead and make sure we got all the water dumped out of those things right now. And believe me when I say a red solo cup with 2 inches of water in it is enough to grow mosquitoes. It is.
Oh yeah.
So do not assume that tiny little thing in the corner isn't going to cause your yard all kinds of misery.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah.
All right, we got that. It's about mole season.
Yeah.
So you're about to start having those little guys plow through your yards. And the thing is, they're looking for food.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and treat your yard now for like Japanese beetle grubs and stuff like that, again, go to your local garden center. They have a quick spray or something for that. You got sprayer granules. And if you don't have food in the yard, then there's no reason for the little guys to come along and dig up your yard.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, when you're weed eating around the house and that type of thing, I learned this trick a long time ago. You can get a little short piece of PVC pipe and cut a slit in it and slip that around anything you really don't need to be smacking around with the weed eater.
That's a very interesting
Like
idea.
that little piece of wire that maybe goes to your cable system or your internet connection, or everybody's got something around the base of their house somewhere that you really shouldn't be hitting with the weed eater.
Now, Alan, full disclosure, I didn't warn you about what our confession hotline confession
I have no
is,
idea,
and
actually.
basically, it's just weird that you have this psychic power, because it's a weed eater confession. So, but what you're saying is a great idea. I'm just thinking of the okay. If you have a bunch of PVC, you could have the different diameters, because
Right.
it comes in all and
Tiny
just,
to great
just
big.
lowering. Get a 3 or 4 inch piece or whatever it is. That's a great idea, I have to admit, because, man, then you don't have to sit there and baby it or worry that you're going to...
Well, then you got to get down your hands and knees
Right.
and pull stuff out around it. Just slip you a little cover on there. That will be weed eater resistant.
That's a great
And
idea,
now
man.
you're going along. Now you're not accidentally turning off everybody's cable.
Yeah. No, I mean that. Well, it's not just that, but I have to imagine there's a lot of plants that even you don't necessarily want to be hitting the bottom of a bush that you actually like,
Right.
with the
That's
weed
when you
eater.
can get the larger stuff, and you can cut a section of it out and fit it up underneath there. And now you've got an area where you can really get in and get some work done.
Weed eater shields.
Yes.
That's a good tip, man. That's very interesting. And Allan, I'm still curious though about all this temperature changing and what the plants. What are you doing, to the psychology of your plants, if there's such a thing? But I don't know. If you're a plant and it's February and it's 70 degrees out, you're probably pretty confused. So, and then now it's cooling off in May.
I have blueberries both blooming and making berries all at the same time.
Very interesting. All right, well, we're gonna unpack a little bit more of that weird seasonal shifts in gardening, and then Allan, when we come back, I didn't prepare you for this either. We're gonna talk about showing your wood stain who's boss. Ooh. What do you think of that? You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Is there anywhere in this town where we could buy a shrubbery?
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, if there is, just ask Allan. You know exactly where to get a shrubbery.
I even know Roger.
You mentioned plants, and I have to deliver.
Absolutely. Max is on the job. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning. And I'm still out there looking for suggestions of what to change my business name to. I feel like I want to change it a little bit because I've been told I have trouble. People have trouble understanding what I'm saying.
You have enunciational difficulties?
Yeah. So I may be mixing it up a little just to add a little, whatever. And here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to do that, especially a text. A text works great, Allan.
Mm-hmm.
And because coming up at the top of the next hour, besides the fact that our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration is coming in, he's going to be sitting in with us for our Tool Talk Radio Confession Hotline. It's a juicy one this week, and we want to hear from you. If you've got a time where maybe you failed using a tool or failed as a homeowner or failed, it's therapeutic. Hey, I've confessed stuff on the air, Allan.
I go
when
beyond
are you gonna do
fails.
one?
I'm going to go trials and tribulations.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some times where you do everything right, and it still looks at you and goes, no, that's not how this is going to turn out.
It is your destiny. Yeah, exactly. So, and talking about it on the air is fun, and you might help somebody else to avoid your stupidity. So give us a call or text. You can call, text any day of the week too if you want to leave this. If it's a Monday afternoon and it just occurred to you, just go ahead and call or text the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And then, of course, we also invite you to go over to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Check out all the action over there. Check out, Allan's very good about linking up our past shows, which you can hear on Spotify, YouTube, and other platforms. So
go ahead and subscribe and give us a like.
Absolutely. Well, Allan, we were talking about weird seasonal shifts in gardening. And once again, I feel like I interrupted you too many times. I kept, which I'm prone to do when I have an idea because I don't want to
I'm going to use another word to trigger you immediately because anytime you have a dramatic temperature shift, the word is going to be caulk. C-A-U-L.
Yeah.
We're going to throw in the K on that and say, all right, guys, it's time to go look because that stuff ages, cracks, peels, pops off, and creates an entryway into your home for water and critters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, you've got let's put your front window. Let's suppose your front window is facing the south, and it's soaking wet, and it's 30 degrees out, and then it suddenly goes to blazing hot sun, and it's high and 85 and dry. Well, I mean, that wood is doing its thing. It's moving back and forth.
Yes.
And that caulk, it's really got, you're asking a lot of your caulk to think that it's not going to separate. So, I mean.
And the thing, and once again, you and I have made this point before, and I'm going to make this point dramatically again, because right now, we've had days with as much as a 30, maybe even a 40-degree shift.
Within 24 hours, sure.
We've had evenings that got down into the 40s, and the next day it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I know everybody looks at their house and they think it is a solid object. You and I both know painfully that it is not.
No.
And when you have so much temperature changing, and especially whether it's wet or it's dry, these dramatically affect how things are shrinking, swelling, adjusting, moving. This is why old houses creak at night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the stuff moving.
Everything is moving. So now, while it's really pleasant, before the real heat gets here, probably in just another week or two, now's not a bad time to go take that walk around the house and make sure that something hasn't popped loose.
Okay.
A shutter hasn't come off a mooring. And again, a great time to really look at those windows.
Sure.
Now, a little advice about the lovely gardening bed in front of it. Don't get carried away because it's cute, and put something in there that, A, you don't like how it smells.
I didn't think of that. Because some
happens
of them don't
all
have
the time.
a nice smell.
Some people would, and I always tell people, also don't be afraid to kind of mix and match. Just because this isn't a traditionally a front flower bed plant, if you enjoy it and it looks good, give it a shot.
Okay.
The worst thing that can happen is you dig it up and move it later. So there's just a lot going on right now where the temp's good, the water's good, the plants are probably going to live unless you just got a brown thumb. Mm-hmm. And I actually have to agree with people. There are folks like me that are green-thumbed. You can give me anything, it's going to get green and happy.
Yeah.
There are other people, not so much.
Well, here's what I'm curious about, though, Allan, because, okay, see, I'm not a gardener, but one of the simple things I do, okay, on my house in the winter, I have those foam covers that you put over your water spigot so they don't freeze. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I know in gardening, a lot of people have to do things similar like that to protect their plants.
Yes.
Okay, but when the temperature goes back and forth, well, I guess what I'm wondering, like I said, if it suddenly is 75 degrees in February, well, now I wonder, it's probably not good to be trapping heat in there. So is it kind of like you're constantly just on top? You have to be on top of this stuff. You have to continually keep it comfortable for your plants to help them ride out these weird changes in season? I mean,
depending upon the plant.
Okay.
If you've got stuff like a blueberry bush planted out in the middle of the yard, we do not have a winter bad enough for you have to sweat it at all.
I didn't know that. Blueberries are pretty tough.
They're from up north.
Oh, okay.
We bring them down.
Okay.
Now, here's where the flip is.
Yeah.
It's all that stuff we're bringing up from the south. Some of it is winter hardy to a point, and this is where it's important to read that tag when it tells you what is it hardy, and it will give you a temperature down to.
Okay. Yeah.
So, especially for a lot of your perennials, and especially for stuff that is more lush and tropical, of that hardy down to, you look at a blueberry and they're hardy down to like -2 degrees.
Oh, wow.
You're fine. We're never going to really worry about that. Of those Japanese bananas, well, they're not really good to -2. So you may be cutting the plant back and putting a cover over it and trying to keep the rootstock alive so that your bananas all come back up next year.
That's why we can't grow palm trees here in Memphis, unfortunately, because those are some of my favorite trees, but I never see any.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, that's not 100% true. Okay. There are certain hardier varieties, but again, you really got to read that label because a lot of them also don't like our dirt. We
really?
have a clay soil. We have a heavy clay soil which is thick and heavy. Mm-hmm. And you watch the gardening shows from up north, and somebody walks out there and just takes a shovel and sticks it in the ground and picks up a big old thing of dirt. I used to think I am so weak because he's over there moving dirt like it's not. Then I realized no, he's over there moving potting soil. We have clay soil. This stuff is rough, tough, durable. It takes work to move our dirt.
I got
So
you.
a lot of times when you look at some of these plants, especially the ones you got to baby a little bit more, you maybe got to dig out a bigger hole. Maybe you got to put in a little extra soil. And some of them, you need to make sure they've got the right kind of drainage.
Oh,
which
good
is
point. Yeah.
Always not necessarily great because what is the size of this plant 5 years from now? as to how close do you want to get it to the house.
Yeah, boy, there's just way too much thinking in gardening. You really got to consider a lot. And we've seen, we've seen when people do put things too close to the house and what it does to your foundation and everything.
The worst sin in the world is over-mulching.
Over-mulching. Oh, because that's what creates those little volcanoes, or what do they call that?
Well, all right, you can over-mulch your trees, and we call that the tree volcano.
Yeah.
You walk out there, and the tree's got this big pile of stuff on it. The tree should basically have a mulch moat.
Right.
So it shouldn't be all the way up the side of the tree.
Allan, I relate that to a fence post, because a fence post, if you set it up correctly and everything, and it's got if the water can drain away from it, it'll last 30 years or whatever.
Yes.
The minute you start piling things there where water is just sitting, especially when it sits in that little recessed hole area, it'll rot. So I guess it's the same with the tree, right?
Off.
It needs to be able to.
Yeah, well, you don't want the tree thinking the soil level's 8 inches higher than it really is.
Oh, because then the roots will start coming up.
The tree starts trying to grow into that area. And what you really want is you want to keep the weeds and stuff away from the bottom of the tree.
Okay.
And another thing to remember, when you a lot of people get really frustrated trying to do those cute gardens around the base of a big tree, and the plants keep dying.
Yeah.
And they keep putting in plants and trying. All right, guys, you got a poor little daffodil trying to compete with an oak tree for nutrition.
Yeah.
He's not going to win.
Battle.
He's not going to win. So this is where you get into raised beds and containers, so the tree isn't beating your plants to all the good stuff.
Gosh, it's just amazing how much thinking goes into gardening, and how it's almost like, it just reminds me of almost like a Tetris game or something, where you have to arrange things correctly. You have to think about temperature. You have to.
Well, and it also jumps us from the mulch right to the gutters.
Okay, good point.
Because gutter management, again, another huge topic for the Mid-South. For those of you listening further south, you already know about pine needles. For those of you listening further north, all about the big oak tree leaves and stuff and everything that can pile up into your gutters. And once those gutters back up, then we start talking about water getting into the house.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'm going to talk about is you've got your gutters cleaned out, you've got your screens on, everything's looking good. All right, now it's time to look at where is that water coming out of the gutter.
Yeah.
Are you leaving it right next to the house? Is it going into a drain, or what is happening with all that water? Because that also brings up secondary issues with your foundation.
Yeah.
With your gardening. And again, if you've got a lot of mulch piled up to the house, you might be ponding the water from the gutter next to the house.
Allan, it makes me think in the big picture, it's probably, even if you're just going to garden for just a hobby or just whatever, it really probably isn't a bad idea to just get a landscaper over there, or somebody that really understands this, or, go visit our friends at the garden centers and really get a handle on this first, because, man, it is just, we talk about our house moving and whatever. I mean, with gardening, everything is so temporary, and it's so you just got to stay on top of it, and it's not going to look the same as it does 5 years from now. Everything you just did is going to look different.
Going to look drastically different. And the reason I tie all this in with home and home improvement is the curb appeal of your home drastically affects what you do with your home. And of course, ultimately, you and I are always, at the end of the day, really talking about the preservation of your home and the resale value of your home.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff, Allan. But I feel like this could be its own show, honestly. It's like, and I don't know much about gardening, but I can just, the big thing I hear is a lot of work and a lot of thought, so.
If you do it right, it's very enjoyable and you get a lot out of it.
Okay. All right. Well, Allan, let's shift gears. Before I want to bring something up in a minute, and it has to do with wood stain and my the evolution of my relationship with wood stain. How's that? That's
okay.
How's that for a tease? Before we get to that, I want to talk about our friend Cindy Williams, Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. Boy, you talk about we talk about Jay Hill and Larry Brown and the dynamic personalities we interact with. I guess we just attract those types of people, or they whatever. But we one of our favorite people is Cindy Williams of Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. Everybody has seen this. You've got those kitchen cabinets or those bathroom cabinets, or as we say, Alan, we're spilling out into the rest of the house. That hallway closet or the kids' room. Any type of
toy
storage
closet,
area,
pantry,
right? That is cluttered, or also sometimes I've seen this too, Alan. You have this massive cabinets, and it might be in the kids' playroom or something, and it's half full because the way the shelves were laid out. There's really just a lot of dead space that's not being utilized. Well, Shelf Genie of the Mid-South deals with they deal with your storage solutions, not only taking advantage of every square inch of your cabinets and closets, but also making everything easy to get to. Because a lot of people have mobility issues, and it doesn't, it makes it's a lifestyle improvement, and it gives you, I guess I would say too, because we've seen these cabinets where you don't know what's in the back of it. You've got, and I've seen this with pantries, and we've seen they pull something out. It's been there for 6 years. It's old. It's whatever. Because getting to it is such a hassle. Well, now every corner of your kitchen and bathroom is accessible. What is it? Accessible.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
easy to get to.
Easy to get to. They make these custom glide out solutions. And like we said, everybody in the Shelf Genie team, they go to school for this. It's Shelf Genie, school. And so all of them they're working for one thing as a cohesive unit. The installers, the designers, the owners, everybody is working together to maximize, to make your storage as good as it can possibly be. And this consultation is free. That's the other part.
Definitely.
So there's really no reason not to call them to get it, get them in there and see what sort of options you can do for your kitchen and your storage solutions. So give them a call. You can call them directly at 901-422-8225. Tell them you heard about it on Tool Talk Radio. Or go to shelfgenie.com/Mid-South Memphis. And by the way, Alan, we've been keeping track of Cindy Williams' appearance, appearance tour dates and everything. She's going to be at the Italian Fest, and I guess a lot of our Cumulus buddies are going to be there too. Knock on wood, I think we're going to be broadcasting.
We are indeed.
I really hope a lot of people will come out to the Italian Fest. It's a lot of fun. I've been going to it for 25 years. And I've watched it grow. You talk about something that has grown, Alan. It started out in the parking lot of Holy Rosary Church, and now the thing is they had to expand over to Marquette Park, and they get 15 or 20,000 people there. It's a lot of fun, and it's family friendly, and they always have good music too. Lots of food. So we'll be there, and if you want to meet Cindy Williams with Shelf Genie in the Mid-South, she'll be set up at the party tent, as we call it. So
you can always find her tent because there's always a lot of oohing and awing and a lot of people standing there.
Yeah, it's a hive of activity. So, all right, Alan, I just wanted to mention this because I had a situation with this again. This job, Becky's Midtown job. Boy, I might get mileage out of this.
Right.
I built them. I started off with building a screened-in porch for them. You know. That evolved into, hey, as long as you're here, I need this. We're going to need a little pool house built, which I haven't got to yet. Also, we have this almost 200-foot wall here made of brick and wood and everything. And I've talked about the drainage issues. She's really going to town and making this. She's getting everything fixed. So I give her hats off. Well, among other things, I had to replace all of the fence boards in her, because it's a beautiful wall. It's like 8 or 9 feet tall, and the bottom portion is it's brick more or less with cinder block, the big textured cinder block, and then up above is wood. Well, she wanted it stained, so I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this home. I'm going to cut it all to size. I'm going to get a little assembly line going. I'm going to stain it all, stack it up, and then that way, when I get to the job site, I'll just put it up. Well, the stain color she picked out, we weren't quite getting the look that we wanted. Right? It was a little. You know how porous a piece of fence board is. She wanted a little bit of a deeper color, but she also wanted to see the wood grain. So I bought a semi-transparent stain. Latex, of course, folks. Don't ever use oil outside. I'll preach that. That's the hill I'll die on.
Just watch it grow mold.
Yeah. Yep. So I got a latex stain, and when I put it on, She said, well, I like it, but it's not quite, it's, I want to see more of the grain. Well, in the old days, Alan, when I first started using wood stain, I found it very intimidating because I seem to remember my shop teacher talking about, make sure when you stain that you have everything prepared because this is not coming off. I remember the word permanent and there was sort of this intimidation factor of don't just rub this stuff in because once it's there, you're never getting it out unless you sand it way down. Well, over the years, I've sort of I've grown to. So in other words, stain was the boss. Well, I've turned the tables. I feel like I'm showing stain who's boss. So
okay,
I said, okay, well, you know what? So what I did was in this situation, for example, I said, well, let's put a little stain on. Then I showed her what happens if you put it on, let it dry, and then you just scuff the surface. And all of a sudden, it's almost like a magic act. All of a sudden, the grain just boom, because you've basically scuffed the surface, and it jumps out. And so what would have been a daunting problem for me probably 30 or 40 years ago is, okay, well, this is another option. And I've run into this before with wood stain where, okay, maybe this doesn't work, but if you rub a little solvent on it after the fact, it'll give you this, and then it gives you that one-of-a-kind look. And also, I'm more open to the idea of having a one-of-a-kind, unrepeatable look. And I already know where this is going to lead, Alan, because you and I are on the same page with this. Like, in other words, I don't want it to look like what the store sample. I want it to be, this is my own sort of artistic statement here. And wood stain is very flexible if you use it correctly. And it's not as permanent as people think. Like, I just don't want people to be as daunted by wood stain. And I know you've talked about a floor many years ago. But anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that. So,
well, I'm not going to use the word misuse the stain, but I'm going to throw in add steps too.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you can create some very interesting effects by brushing certain patterns, not using certain patterns, going back we had one job where they wanted a kind of speckled finish. And we actually found what worked best was a semi-defective spray bottle with a bleach solution.
There you go.
Because
you just don't know what's going to...
The spray bottle didn't spray really well. It kind of coughed and sputtered. But the coughed and sputtered look with a light bleach solution left the little speckles. Like they were looking for something that always looked like it had glistening water drops on it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so just in one of these, I got this spray bottle in my truck that don't work so good. Yeah. And next thing you know, we're out there, creating these designs.
Right.
Of another one I've used with wood stain that's been kind of a weird effect and a lot of fun is natural sponge.
Oh, yeah. A lot of folk
because you
finishers
get lighter and
that.
Darker as depending upon how you roll or move the sponge.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this just comes down to don't be afraid to try it.
Yeah.
And again, my favorite words is try a sample you can bury if it goes wrong.
Bingo. Yeah, definitely. I'm in total agreement. Get a couple of extra scrap boards and keep in mind every piece of wood behaves differently because wood stain, and I don't care if it's the same type of wood, each piece of wood is a little bit different. Also, you might use pre-stain. Pre-stain is that clear finish you put on beforehand, and it makes the stain go on lighter or something. But I guess my message would just be don't be intimidated by stain. Don't go willy-nilly. Don't use it recklessly. Never mix oil and latex together. Never do that. But rule of thumb, basically, use oil base only for indoor treatments. That's my thing, and it's great for obviously furniture and things like that. But I don't know. It was sort of liberating, Alan, because like I said, I had this almost 200-foot fence with a problem, and one piece of sandpaper solved the whole thing. Anyway, sandpaper and an attitude,
man. Yeah.
Anyway, Alan, hour one of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, but we're coming back in just a minute with our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and the man himself, the one who keeps the lights on. He did a great job with the remodel, Allan. Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration. Good to have you, sir. It's always good to have you in,
Well,
man.
good to be here. And by the way, the remodel was really hard work, and it was a lot of long nights, but we made it, didn't we?
Yeah. You've done great work. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we're not dripping with sarcasm at all.
No,
here,
there was
so,
no hint of sarcasm on that one.
Hey,
No,
money's
not at
an
all.
important factor
It
in
is.
a construction
It is.
project.
Right.
So, hey, Larry, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about with you today. I want to just throw this out there. By the way, we don't usually do this at the top of the hour, but off the air we're talking because later today, you guys on Geek Tank Radio, we've got our friend Craig Brewer coming in. He's
Awesome.
a famous filmmaker that happens to live here in Memphis. And Larry, you're a fan of some of his movies, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like the Hustle and Flow movie, that's a Memphis movie, and it's one of the songs and Whip That Trick was a big thing
Yeah.
at the NBA games.
Sure.
And so it's a really good movie. I enjoyed it, and I'll be interested to meet him.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. We'll have to get a picture, Allan. We'll have to, Craig Brewer and Larry Brown in the, News Talk 98.9 studio. Boy, it's going to be great. So anyway, that's coming up later. But that's not that's not the main reason we have Larry in here. Larry, among other things, you've got some specials for us. We're going to talk about, our obviously HVAC, but you brought up something this week that I thought was very timely and very important especially today, and it's called I guess you call it just-in-time manufacturing, right? That's I guess I don't know if that's a business practice or if that's just sort of one of the realities that's giving us the supply chain issues and everything.
JIT is an entire paradigm of manufacturing, logistics, and supply.
Right, and you're in the thick of things with this, right?
Well, absolutely. I did a little research on Google, and it's actually developed by a gentleman that worked for Toyota.
Okay.
And it's basically your supplies or your materials that you build or manufacture something with are showing up just in time. So you're not stocking these items. You don't have a warehouse. They show up. Basically take them off the truck and bolt them onto, in Toyota's, instance, they were bolting them onto a car. But, a lot of manufacturers have opted that process.
Mm-hmm.
And so now in our supply chain interruptions, they don't get all their parts exactly when they need them. So the just-in-time manufacturing thing is not working as well, because if you have supply chain issues, you're not getting all your materials when you need them.
Yeah.
And you don't have any backup. You don't have any inventory to go pull from. So that's why it's caused a lot of ripples or waves in our supply chain, because people are relying on everything to show up just in time, and it just doesn't happen like that anymore.
Absolutely. So we're going to unpack that in just a bit. Before we get, and of course, we got one of my favorite segments coming up in just a second, Allan, our Tool Talk Radio confession line. And Larry, you're gonna enjoy this. But hey, before we jump into that, you always bring us some specials too. So listeners, if you have anything, any ideas that you need some HVAC work or a clean. Smart home system or a clean air system with the Remy Halo, I bet you Larry's got some good news for you today. So what do you got for us, sir?
Well, we always try to bring some specials, and of course, it seems like this year we've got off to the summer. The summer's not even here yet officially. We've already got 90+ degree weathers. That's air conditioning business is booming, should I say? So,
yeah.
And if you haven't got your AC serviced yet, it's not too late to do it. So you can give us a call. We're offering a $69.99 service special on your first system, $39.99 for each additional unit. So if you need to get your unit cleaned and ready to go for the summer, it's not too late. You can give us a call. If you're in the market for a new Train HVAC unit, we're offering 18 months no interest financing on any new Train system, or you can get up to a $600 rebate on any Train system you purchase between now and May 31st. So these two, the the no interest financing and the rebate. That promotion ends May 31st. Now, you have, as long as you purchase the unit by then, we can install it later. So but if you're in the market to do it, I would highly advise getting it done now, because we just talked about supply chain issues. Well, they're really impacting the HVAC industry, and we're having a shortage of materials and units. So if you wait till July and you think, well, I can just get one whenever I need it, they may not have one.
I think people are getting more accustomed to that too. Lock it in now. Lock in your rates. Lock in your price. Lock in that deal, and then you can get it when it's ready. So I think people are more accustomed to that way of thinking now, just because of the way the realities. But that's some great stuff. I love the 0% financing too. That's nothing to sneeze at, Allan. I mean, that's
real money.
Especially,
money.
that's
real
definitely
money.
real
Right.
money. So.
And so you can purchase a unit now and take 18 months to pay for it. So there's going to be possibly, depending on what your situation is. If you're working, maybe you're going to get some kind of bonus at the end of the year. You're going to get an income tax check back next year. You could use all that towards helping pay for that system. So.
Perfect. Okay, so call directly, 901-362-1881, or go to brownref.com. And if you're really lucky, when you call, Mrs. Brown will answer the phone, and that's a hoot,
That's
she's
absolutely,
a riot, Larry. So yeah.
She's been there working hard. We've all been there. It's been really busy. Obviously, when we see 90+ degree temperatures in the middle of May, all hands on deck at our office. So
absolutely. So all right. Well, hey, Larry, I was really eager for you to hear this. Here we go. We're gonna unpack our confession hotline.
I've called you all here because I need some honest answers.
Yeah, they all kind of broke. So, when do I start?
There is a basket of oil-soaked rags above a wood-burning stove.
Are you out of your mind? You put a jet engine on a lawnmower?
This time, they are going to be held accountable. This time, they are the ones who will pay.
Larry, I thought you have a jet engine on your lawnmower, don't you?
No, just a V8. We just got a blown Hemi on my lawnmower. That's all I got.
Oh, that'll get the job done. All right, so guys, here we go. This one, Allan, I don't think we can get sued, but I really want to just reemphasize, we are not in any way saying you should do this. This is a terrible idea.
This is a no advocation.
Don't send lawyers after us.
This.
But this is, we just report the news here. So here you go, Larry. Dear Tool Talk Radio, I have a weed whacker confession. Oh, gosh. One time I got so tired of the plastic cord breaking every 30 seconds when I was edging my sidewalk that I figured out a way to attach an old circular saw blade on the end instead. It looked like something out of a Mad Max movie. I started edging with the spinning blade, and it kind of worked, except it kicked up a lot of dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Then it caught on something in the ground, and the weed eater twisted around and threw me. I don't know if I sprained my wrist, or I don't know if my sprained wrist was from the twisting handle or from landing on my wrist badly when I fell. Either way, I do not recommend this. Allan, I can't promise I haven't thought about stuff like this, because Larry, do you use an edger or a weed eater?
Absolutely, every week.
Why does that little string break? I mean, I've done this. It just it flips around. You get about 20 seconds. It either breaks or it wears down or it jams, and you got to pull the thing out. It's just, I don't know. Maybe mine is defective or something, but I sort of sympathize with this guy.
Well, it is frustrating, but there's a reason why they put a plastic cord and not a blade on, obviously. So, it's there for, some give, should we say? So it does break instead of breaking your arm.
What do you think, Allan? Well, don't they make an edger that you push it and it's got a blade or something?
Yes.
But now that's a different situation.
All right. Well, all right. That is a true edger. That's not a weed eater.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the big question. Now, see, I have a lot of questions
Let's
here.
hear it. Yeah.
Because one, was this a gas powered? Is this a new high powered electric? Is it the little cheapy, intro model? What did you do?
How much torque did it have? Is that what you're going after?
It's how much torque did you have, And why didn't you just get a brush blade for it?
Oh, what's a brush
There
blade, Allan?
is a blade made for those units that will not grab you and throw you to the ground because it has a different tooth configuration.
Is it like a wire brush type thing?
No, it's going to look really similar to that saw blade he had on there, but it's going to have all right. It's kind of like the difference between a pruning blade and a hacksaw.
Okay.
A pruning blade has got those big, huge teeth in it that looks like you're dismembering a whale. A hacksaw,
which Allan has done, but okay.
I'm pleading the fifth on this.
Yeah.
The hacksaw has those tiny little teeth that is anybody that listens to us knows will cut through anything. And there are actually blades made for this, for getting rid of woody stemmed stuff when you clear land and that kind of thing. And if you've got the thing that rotates over, those tiny little blades don't grab a big hunk of earth and body slam you.
Yeah, I can picture this whole maneuver. Well, like it could have hit a rock, it could have hit a tree root. It could have
he did was
plus, it could have pinched the blade.
Well, he caught the under edge of the sidewalk. I know exactly what he did because I'm not going to say I know somebody personally that's done this, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah. I have to imagine, especially, we've watched enough YouTube. I have to imagine a lot of people have tried something like this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Larry,
yeah.
you're being strangely quiet. I
no,
not
me. Not me.
He knows Mrs. Brown is listening. So, yeah.
So I have a true edger that I edge my yard with it, and it has a belt on it. So if you hit something and the blade stops, the belt will slip.
Yep.
It's got like a safety.
Yeah, so the belt's there to, give you a little bit of safety. And so
I've met some of your techs.
And so a weed eater, now I'm talking about myself personally. I can't say anything about them, but and a weed eater, and if you get a good weed eater, it has heavier line in it.
Okay.
It allows you to put a heavier weight line in it, and it won't break as much.
See,
Now, they also have an insert cartridge, which has Lexan blades.
Mm-hmm. Right.
See, Allan keeps talking about the blades, which is where I'd like to go with it. Because, to be honest, Larry, yard work's not my favorite thing, and I probably weed eat once a year, if you want to know the truth.
Joe's that guy in the neighborhood.
But my experience is just basically I've not found the right line or whatever it is where it just breaks a lot, or like I said, it'll snap off, then it springs back in, and you got to take it apart and pull
that's
it out.
because
it's
you're
not
using
fast.
all right, well, A, you're impatient.
Good.
B,
True.
you're a Gryffindor.
Yeah.
C, you're using an entry-level weed eater.
Oh,
so you have
3
strikes against you right there.
Yeah.
Now, when we go to my garage,
talk about jet powered.
You remember in Harry Potter when he got a Nimbus? Okay.
I do. Larry's doesn't know.
I know, but I'm making a geek reference just for Joe here.
Yeah.
So you remember when Harry got that Nimbus and how much better his life became?
Sure.
All right, when you upgrade just a little bit, you get so much better a performance than the entry-level little gizmo.
Yeah, I may have to bite the bullet. Although if I do that, then I'm going to be required to do more yard work, which I don't know if that's in my
it's not required
either,
to do more yard work. It's the getting it over with more effectively.
Okay.
Now, a good buddy of ours, Scott Carroll, just recently moved into a house, and it's a 0 lot line, and he has a postage stamp for a yard.
Lucky him. Yeah. Okay.
He has the yard you want.
Yeah.
All right. Really, it's just big enough for the dog. And your weed eater is what he needs.
Okay. All right.
You need what I have because you live on a huge lot with
like
trees and critters and stuff.
Right.
We're going to go back to using the insufficient tool for the job.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, anyway, whoever you are, Samuel in South Haven. All right. Samuel, okay,
Samuel, send me some information.
Samuel.
I will point you the right direction.
Anyway, glad it didn't turn out
glad
worse.
you didn't get killed.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Glad that blade didn't fly
off there and hit your neighbor or something.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Larry, let's shift gears. Let's we'll I think we're going to probably kind of introduce this topic right now. So you and I were talking the other day about Brown Refrigeration and about some of the challenges that that we've had the last 2 or 3 years with all the COVID stuff. And then you brought up this term just-in-time manufacturing, which sort of caught my attention because, Allan, last week you were talking about just-in-time, I don't remember, delivery or something, but
just-in-time supply.
Supply,
yes.
Right.
and how that mindset affects the supply chain. And the way you explained it really, I thought, was very educational, Larry. So I thought maybe we could dive into a little bit of a talk about just-in-time manufacturing and what that's doing, to a situation right now.
Well, all of us as consumers in manufacturing, we're all used to now we can have anything we want at the click of a button, right? So we go on
pretty close.
We go on the internet. We say, we hit the Amazon, and we say, all right, we want this, and boom, tomorrow, the next day, it's at our house, right?
Right.
Or our office or whatever. Well, that's kind of changed. Some things, especially in the manufacturing side of it, with air conditioning, cars, other products like that, are not able to keep these supply chains, a steady stream of product or parts they need. And therefore, we're not able to keep those items in stock or keep a good supply of them. Just like cars. I mean, we do a car dealership, a large car dealership here in Memphis. I was talking to the manager the other day, and he said that before the pandemic, they had anywhere from 300 to 350 new cars on their lot. And he said, you know how many I got today?
Yeah.
5.
Right. It's weird. You go by these dealerships, and it's like a graveyard there. Yeah.
They're all used cars because there's no new cars being able to manufacture because, remember, we're talking about just in time. They can't get the supplies they need. And you've got to think a car's probably got thousands of parts. And if they don't have, if they need 3,000 parts and they've got 2,995 of the parts and they don't have 5 of them, they can't build the car.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing that's happened to us now, is that we counted on just in time for so long, and it worked well, but until we hit a pandemic, and now we hit supply chain issues and we don't get these supplies, and nobody has anything like stocks of these items. They're expecting, if they need 20 of them, they expect 20 of them to show up. We use 20 of them. Tomorrow we need 20 more, so on and so forth. And it's something that's going to take, I think, years to work out.
It seems like it will, or it just, Go ahead, Allan.
Well, I believe it was a Star. I'm just geeky today, I guess. Star Trek. The more complicated you make the plumbing, the easier it is to back up the sink.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So for JIT, to really give people a solid idea what JIT is, you go to your favorite restaurant.
Here we go.
You
Food
order a meal.
Max.
Oh, well, we got to do a food reference. You order a meal. You expect everything to be fresh. Yes?
Right.
Depending on where you eat, but I guess so.
Well, you know, if they're going to be microwaving a bunch of frozen stuff, you could have done that at the house.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. So that is the best example I can give everybody of JIT, in the fact that restaurants get deliveries 3, 4, 5 times a week, and they don't have a giant freezer in the back. I'll look at Larry when he's going to come out refrigeration again.
Well,
they don't have a 2,000 square foot freezer back there. They got a 250 square foot or 300 square foot.
Or less, maybe even 100 square foot.
And, you know, what comes in turns and goes out very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, let's throw in, do y'all remember the ship called the Ever Given?
No.
Yes, you do, because on March 23rd of 2021, it blocked up the Suez Canal
that
and
shit.
stopped over 10% of the world's commerce for 5 days.
That was weird.
One boat.
One boat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are probably people just now getting those deliveries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm sorry, when you start talking about the container ships that we're talking about today, we're not talking speedboats.
No, these are huge.
These are gargantuan ships with 20,000 of those shipping containers, like you see on the back of an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
Picture 20,000 of those on one boat.
Yeah, stacked up on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is literally a slow boat from China.
Honestly.
honestly. Yeah.
Well, and it's just such a ripple effect too. So it's like it affects everybody. It affect, like you said, your grocer or your manufacturer.
You got a $60,000 car and you're missing a $3 spark plug.
Yeah.
Guess what? It doesn't run.
It doesn't run.
Yeah, and which is why we want to continue the conversation with Larry Brown about this, because Larry has navigated. Larry, you've been in the game for over 40 years in the heating and air conditioning. And you've navigated all sorts of unique situations, which is why you want somebody with some experience to help you handle this. So anyway, we're going to unpack this a little more. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Extraordinary events call for extraordinary actions. We form an allegiance to use sudden violence. Okay. Do you have the tools to turn a wooden mop handle into a stake? Which size?
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, these are the kind of conversations you hear when Allan's around. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and Larry Brown himself, the man himself that keeps the lights on here, that did such a nice remodel, and really is sort of the bedrock of Tool Talk Radio. He's in the studio. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And honestly, you can call or text us any day of the week because we take voice messages. And if they're interesting, like that dangerous confession that we got earlier, that somehow the guy didn't cut his leg off. Yeah. But get in touch with us, 901-683-0989. Well, Larry, we've been talking about this just-in-time manufacturing principle, I guess you could say, and how it's affecting the supply chain, how it's affecting your business. Well, I guess we're gonna discuss how it's affecting your business. But before we get to that, once again, you always bring us some great specials, and you always give the listeners a great reason to call. So what are the specials today, man?
Well, it's like I say, I always bring some specials. So I've got several here. The first one is, it's not too late to get your air conditioning system serviced for the summer. So we're offering a service special, $69.99 for the first unit, $39.99 for each additional unit. So if you got 2, 3, 4 systems, you can just do the math, come out and get your air conditioner clean, checked, tuned up, ready for the summer. If you're in the market for a new heating and air conditioning system, we're offering 18 months, no interest financing on our new Train heating and air conditioning equipment. Or if you're you can get up to a $600 rebate on new Train systems, and that's through May 31st. So if you're interested in any of these fine specials, give us a call at 901-362-1881 or visit us on the web at brownref.com.
All right, perfect. So, Larry, okay, here's how I relate to this whole thing, because so we're talking about the just-in-time manufacturing, and it does resonate with me because you were talking about how maybe one of your manufacturers, they need, for example, they might need sheet metal, they might need wiring components, they might need digital boards or things like that. Well, if one of those pieces is missing, they obviously can't complete their work. And also somebody might say, well, why don't they, since they know this is going to happen, why don't they just order 5 times as many boards or something and do that? Well, people don't always have enough working capital. They don't have the money to necessarily do that. I know somebody in my situation, I can't just go buy a warehouse full of lumber to do that. There's only so much money I can spend. So it's a balance between how much capital how much working capital they have. And then if you trickle that down the line and everybody's basically in the same boat, you can see, man, it does create a real problem, especially when you get, all these other complications thrown in. So,
well, and even if you said, well, hey, I can't get these widgets, so that I need to build a particular item. So let me just go ahead and order 500 of them. I go, oh, we can't even get you 5.
Yeah. Well, that's because down the line, they don't have the...
Right.
Yeah.
So even some of our materials, they put us on a quota system. So if we call up and say, hey, we wanted 500, they'll go, well, we can let you have 5.
Right.
Because we got 20, and we're not going to sell you all of them. We're going to share them with some of our other customers.
Okay. So there's a lot more strategy that has to go into, and it's funny because when I talk to you, Larry, you're still swamped. You're still taking care of your customers. So it's like, I just feel like this is, I'm almost picturing hurricane force storms, and Larry's at the bow of the ship just steering right through it. And because you're like, I've been here before, I can handle this. So but honestly, it's a reason to get involved with a company that's got experience and that's got,
obviously I've been doing this for over 40 years right here in the Memphis area. So, we've seen a lot of different situation issues come down the road, and we've figured out ways to deal with them in the past. We're figuring out ways to overcome these issues now. But, there's certain things that I don't have control over. So if our suppliers and vendors run out of product, I could try other vendors. We've got association with, probably 20 different vendors here in Memphis for HVAC supplies. But, if they don't have it, they don't have it. So I would advise anybody that's in the market for a heating and air conditioning system, or even thinking you might need one, to go ahead and make a move on it now, because I can promise you last year we actually ran out of certain size units that we just didn't have any.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just if you needed one, we didn't have any.
Well, how's this going to get fixed? Because now that you're making me think, it's like everything's interconnected. And is there a solution? Is it going to involve just more structured? I don't know. I don't really know how you unwind this.
Well, I think it's things. It's just like anything. You eventually, as long as things continue to improve slightly and we keep gaining a little bit of ground, eventually we'll catch back up.
Okay.
But it's not going to be something that's going to happen in months. It's going to be years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2023, maybe 24.
Okay.
As long as we don't have another outbreak of the COVID and all this,
At least people's mindset is sort of adapted to this, because people are used to a little adversity like this now.
Absolutely.
Well, to kind of give you just an everyday point of view on this, think about how impossible a cup of coffee is.
Second food reference, Max.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Got to go for food. Well,
okay,
everybody
go
knows
ahead.
food. All right, well, think about it. So you go to your favorite little coffee shop, right? You're going to order a coffee. Coffee beans don't grow in Memphis.
Nope.
Had to come from South America or someplace like that. Mm-hmm. How much sugar did you raise in your backyard last year, Larry?
None.
That'd be none.
Yeah.
So sugar, which is a massive production capability, takes place in like Louisiana. When was the last time you made your own cups, Joe?
Yeah. I get the point, Allan.
So to kind of just drive the point home, just think about some of the most basic ideas that we have, and think about the supply chain it takes to make something as simple as a bag of popcorn or a cup of coffee. And now I'm going to look at Larry and go, and now we're going to talk about a complicated refrigeration system.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, plus the big thing we're also looking at is the actual chemical production, because R22 is gone.
R22 is gone, yes. And other refrigerants are being phased out. So, and chemical plants are having the same problems as, everybody else. So the refrigerant has skyrocketed in price. So it's a big issue in our industry of price increases and shortages of material. So, and we use a lot of different items. So it's a lot of shortages. I've even heard of electrical contractors that have a shortage of electrical panels, and they'll send their employees around to all the big box stores, and they actually buy up all the electrical panels
it's
just
funny
to be able to do their work.
It's funny you say that, Larry, because I think I mentioned this to you the other day when we were talking about this. I'm almost thinking for some companies, this might almost create a new position. Like instead of the secretary just picking up the phone and saying, send me, 500 pounds of this such and such, it might take a little hunting. You might have to have somebody that their job is just basically tracking down the materials you need, or scheduling the deliveries of things like that would have in the old days you could have done that like with an app on your phone or something, but
Well, it's just like Allan mentioned the food reference, before you'd call the food vendor and you'd say, well, I need a dozen of these and I need 10 pounds of this and so on and forth, your list for a restaurant. And the vendor says, well, I don't have that. I don't have this. I don't have that. So then what do you got to do? You order everything you can from them. Then you got to go search for that missing items for maybe another vendor, and they might have half of the other items. So you got to call another vendor, and maybe you called 4 vendors instead of what you used to get from one vendor.
Right.
It always reminds me of Radar O'Reilly for MASH.
Right. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you're
remember
get a
the
bunch of
wheeling
radars
and
out
dealing?
there.
Radar would just be, on that phone
With Sparky changing. Okay, I'll give you 500 potatoes if you send us the.
But I need an incubator. What kind of incubator you got? Well, I need an incubator that So there's a lot of there's a lot of this. As a matter of fact, I went on an expedition last week for a company that had to have a specific left-hand dialed high heat hot water handle for a faucet for a restaurant. And trust me, this became the quest for the Holy Grail.
Sure.
And penultimately, I had to call a friend of mine who let me in their private warehouse because they just so happen to still have these parts in stock.
Yeah, you need to know a guy that knows a guy.
Because
there's always that.
The first 3 guys I knew all didn't have any anymore.
Right.
It took guy number 4 to kind of go, but you're going to owe me.
Right.
So, and he's already told me what he wants. So I'm on the Radar side of this. So
yeah.
He'll get his parts next week. I found them for him, but I got my part for the restaurant last week.
See, folks, this is why you need seasoned experience. So, I do believe, I'm always optimistic. I do believe this whole situation is going to make us stronger as a whole. It's going to make us more adaptable as business people, and we'll get through this probably better off than we were before. But in the meantime, during the crisis, you need people like Larry Brown on your side. So, Larry, one more time, how do they get in touch with Brown Refrigeration?
Well, you can just give us a call at 901-362-1881, or you can reach us on the web, brownref.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, they got a pretty active Facebook. Larry Brown's got more Facebook followers than us, Allan. How do we fix that? Anyway, good. Congratulations, sir. We don't begrudge you that. But hey, let's shift gears. Let's have a little fun because I know Max has been chomping at the bit to get back to some of his idioms for idiots with Max's Deep Cut.
And now, a deep cut with Maximilian.
All right.
Let me guess, you like Fruit Ninja, don't you?
He loves those hot keys, Larry. So, okay, Max, tell us what we got going on. This is some more of your where words come from, right? You're passionate about language.
Yes, the origins of certain things like etymology or whatever. So, what I wanted to discuss, this is pretty much going to carry the entire segment, is the origin of a jack of all trades. And I would like to begin this with a poem by the 14th century English poet John Gower. He kind of discussing the first use of the term jack as sort of like a common man.
Okay.
It says, "There while he hath his full pack, they say a good fellow is Jack."
Really? 14th century, because if you ever watch a movie, there's always the main guy's name is Jack, like Jack from in Titanic, or Jack. Somebody is always the lead detective in the crime stories.
Jack and the Beanstalk.
It's because it's a variation of a derivative of the common name John and everything. So it's like, okay, this is just you're like your Tom, Dick, and Harry sort of thing like that. So Jack is kind of like I said it's just sort of like a fill in for the common man. But now we get into the idea of where does Jack of all trades come from? Well, first I would like to look at kind of the earlier equivalent to it, which was a Latin phrase, Johannes Factorum, which means Johnny Do-It-All. It's kind of
Wait, say that again? I want to put that on a T-shirt. Johannes what is it?
Factorus.
Factotum.
Factotum. Okay.
I like that. That sounds cool.
And one of the uses of that term was from a writer by the name of Robert Greene, and he was using that term as a subtle insult to Shakespeare and everything, like, oh, this guy coming in on the English stage and everything. Who does he think he is? He's an absolute Johannes Factotum.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of and he also called him an upstart crow, which is pretty fun.
An upstart crow. So, okay.
And so that's where we get the term, that's kind of the predecessor of jack of all trades. And so now we make our way a little bit later to, I believe, here we go. It's we get to the 16th century, or the 17th century, when a man by the name of Geoffrey Minshall wrote of his experiences in prison. And one of the phrase, this is where you first get the term jack of all trades, and then later I'll discuss the addition of master of none. And so in this, he describes someone as some broken citizen who hath played jack of all trades.
These are very flowery insults, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Well, it's just they're using the word. They're using the name Jack as in place of just the word person or man.
The man of all trades.
A man of all trades.
But it's that far back, huh? I feel like a lot of the blacksmiths and would have been, because like we said, in the town square, the blacksmiths seemed to have to do. They had to be the most versatile.
Well, the blacksmith was the master,
right?
Because he ran the forge.
Yeah.
Joe, basically, we're going to look at you as the carpenter, as more the jack of all trades, because you're the one that applied the tools.
I've been called that. Have you been called that, Larry? I mean, you.
No.
Okay. see, it sounds great to be. Oh, well, you're the jack of all trades. But what that basically means is that there's a lot of different people that can hit you up for help. Like,
well, it's like
hey,
buying
you're
a pickup
jack
truck.
of all trades. Hey, can you fix the leak in my roof or what?
Well, you get into like the last name Thatcher. That was a person who specialized in thatching the roof of the house.
Oh, okay.
They were the master thatcher, and you actually had to study for years to become a master thatcher.
Okay. Hey, Max, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Is there united agreement on where the term first came from? Because it sounds like it's been kind of scattered around. I mean,
it seems like
old Jeffrey there.
I'd say it is kind of scattered around and everything. Like, I'd say you kind of get, it's like kind of like step-by-step progression and everything. Like, you mentioned the term jack, like in that poem by what's his name? Gower. And then, you slowly add little things like, different shades. Like, I would say it's really hard to peg it down to just one person, but the one that I found was kind of like a pretty concrete use of the word jack of all trades. And then, but the term master of none, like I said, was added later on and everything. And so, you don't get to jack of all trades, master of none, like at the very get-go. It just added slowly and slowly. And so where they actually add the term master of none to actually be sort of an insult to somebody as opposed to like more of a positive thing, it comes from a 1785 text by Charles Lucas, and I'm just going to abbreviate it because he's talking about like a pharmacist. He says, "The very druggist, a jack of all trades, and in truth, master of none."
See, now our founding fathers knew how to write some insults. They knew how to, if they're gonna criticize the king or something, they did it in very colorful terms and real poetic. But that's great, man.
But then you dance over by Mr. Daniel Webster,
okay,
and you get into where they flipped it again. So we went from insult back over to a compliment because it became kind of a poem, and they went, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. AKA a handyman can get a whole lot more done than just the thatcher or the window painter or the person with a mix of skills was often the guy who you were looking for.
All right. Well, see, Larry, you've probably experienced this. I've experienced this too. There's usually my experience is you get the old, the old guy that doesn't talk a lot and he's kind of quiet and he's sort of humble. He's probably 70 years old, and that guy literally knows how to do everything. He doesn't brag about
everything.
it. And then there's those guys that are like, oh, I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. And usually those are the guys, the more they brag about it, usually I find they're less qualified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they're just trying to sell you on.
Well, it's like the old, on my business, everybody's a painter.
Oh, yeah.
You put a thing in, say, I need some help. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, I know how to paint. You know, we have a real simple test. We give you a little cup of paint and a brush and say, paint me a couple of samples on the wall.
Yeah.
And you'll know the painter in 3 seconds.
Right.
How they hold the brush, how they use the brush, and how far into the paint they ram that paintbrush.
Yeah.
Because the painter is going to get just enough paint on one side of the brush to just make the little dab that you asked him for. The guy that thinks he's a painter is going to grab that thing, and he's going in there like he's digging up ice cream.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
That's pretty interesting, Max. So it's sort of it's sort of gone back and forth. It was a compliment. It was an insult. It was it's a real insult, and it's kind of, you know, it's an ever evolving term, I guess. But
well, jack of all trades is now kind of a nice thing to call somebody.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Unless you tag it on the end with the master of none. So yeah.
You're well rounded in several things, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And you know, English is a result of, it's kind of like an extended conversation. It's like, what's going to be the equivalent of jack of all trades in 2121 and everything, so to say.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, Max, we like these deep cuts. And hey, if you've got some words, I guess, that you want to give to get in touch with us.
Keep it clean.
Yeah, keep it clean. If you want us to research anything, Matt, and put it out on the air, get in touch with us. Get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline. You can call or text at 901-683-0989. Leave us a message, and if it's interesting enough, we'll put it up there. Hey, guys, we don't want to run out of time before we get to our must-have item of the week. But before we get to that, real quick, Larry, one last time, tell everybody how to tell us about the specials you've got today and how to get in touch with Brown Refrigeration.
Okay. Well, you know, you kind of caught me off guard. Because
get your notebook out,
I was already getting ready to leave. But anyway, so we're offering a service special on your HVAC units. So if you need to get them clean, checked, it's ready for the summer, give us a call. $64.99 for a service special for your first unit. $34.99 for each additional unit. So if you got more than 1, 2, 3, 4, just do the math. We're offering 18 months, no interest financing, and up to a $600 rebate on new train units. That ends May 31st. So if you're interested, please give us a call, 901-362-1881, or check us out on the web at brownref.com.
Awesome. All right, Max, our must-have item of the week. This is we don't have a lot of time, but Allan, how much explanation does this really need? What am I holding up here?
It is better known as a stubby screwdriver. You happen to have a Phillips size number 2 in your hand right there.
Yeah, I gravitate towards when you need a stubby screwdriver, basically, if you can imagine a screwdriver, this thing to me looks like it's about 3 inches long.
That's a 3-inch screwdriver.
And it's, we've all had that, especially when you're working on, I don't know, cars, or you're working behind something, getting behind maybe a refrigerator or something. That little screwdriver is very important, and it's cheap. I think this thing's less than $4 or $5. A stubby screwdriver is a lifesaver in many situations. So,
well, and the best part is you have the one there with the grooved handle, which is designed to be grabbed by a pair of pliers or channel locks.
Funny you mentioned that. That was my next comment. You can take an adjustable wrench. You can take some vice grips, whatever. You shove the back of that thing with your hand, and you crank it with the handle. So yeah, a stubby screwdriver is our must-have item of the week.
Absolutely.
So, well, guys, this was a chock-full episode. Anytime Larry shows up, it's going to be interesting conversation. But, guys, we're out of time. There's nothing we can do to extend the clock. We haven't invented that one yet. Allan, that's your next job. But so we're out of time, you guys. So another episode of Tool Talk Radio in the can. On behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max over there behind the glass and Larry Brown, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.